Council moves forward without proper notice for the public. And the Sunshine Law that we have proposed maintains all of the substantive provisions of the Brown Act. So it's really trying to create an open meeting law that's tailored to neighborhood councils rather than eliminating the Brown Act.
Now, do you think that will lead to a modification of the Brown Act or create a whole new act in general?
Well, I think it probably, there's some question of whether neighborhood councils are subject to the Brown Act, but it is the opinion of the city attorney that they are. So the recommendation begins by asking the city council to first adopt this local sunshine law and then to lobby the state legislature to specifically exempt neighborhood councils from the Brown Act in favor of the local sunshine law.
I see. Now, neighborhood councils receive an annual budget of $50,000. Has there been a recommendation for either more or less?
We did not recommend a specific dollar figure because over time we expect that will change given the budget priorities of the city. It may go up, may go down, but we did recommend that the city continue to maintain equal annual funding for all neighborhood councils as opposed to a proportional system.
You know, there was mention of land use during the council meeting. How much influence do the neighborhood council review commissions have in terms of land use?
I think neighborhood councils are fairly influential in terms of land use. It's certainly the area that has generated the most interest, both within the neighborhood council system and outside of it. There is a proposal floating around the city right now to allow neighborhood councils to have the right to appeal land use decisions, which they currently cannot. The Review Commission did not take a position on that proposal because it's one of the things we couldn't find consensus on. We had a very diverse array of opinions on that matter, so we didn't take a position on it. But we did try to help out the land use process by requiring that neighborhood councils develop a clear, time-delimited process for how they will handle land use cases. We wanted education to be more available, and we wanted the city to require that developers visit neighborhood councils at the beginning of the process.
Well, Jason Lyon, thank you. It's been such a pleasure having you once again here on Council Week in Review, and we hope to speak to you again.
Thanks so much for having me.
Your Los Angeles City Council voted to receive and file the report, which will now go to the Education and Neighborhood Committee for review of the proposed changes. The final report of the Neighborhood Council Review Commission is also available online at ncrcla.org. You can listen to City Council meetings as well as committee and commission meetings on the telephone by using the City's council phone system. In the downtown area, dial 213-621-CITY. In West Los Angeles, dial 310-471-CITY. For the San Pedro area, dial 310-547-CITY. And in the San Fernando Valley, simply dial 818-904-9450. Just follow the recorded instructions for the meetings you want to hear. We invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. Remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen on Mondays through Fridays at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday at 9:30 a.m. That concludes our program for the week ending September 28, 2007. On behalf of Jack Popejoy and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Rasha Goel. Thank you for watching, and please do join us for the next Council Week in Review.
During California's next major earthquake, an epic battle will take place. Don't fight a brick. The brick will win. DareToPrepare.org.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. We ask that you hook up channel 35 right now for our viewers, please.
The chair that'll be arranged just a little different, so it look like it's a... I'm sorry? We'll organize the chair just a little different so we can sit down. No problem?
Good morning. This is a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. It is Friday, October 5th. We're here in Van Nuys City Hall for the first Friday of the month. We do have a few presentations, but let's call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Okay. If it's okay with my colleagues, we'll go ahead and go through the agenda real quickly before we go to the presentations. So, Madam Clerk, please begin.
Approval of the October 2nd minutes.
It's moved by Mr. Cardenas, seconded by Mr. Alarcon.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Those will be approved.
Madam President, would you like to go through public comments at this time?
I'd like to just run through the agenda, and then we'll come back to the public comments.
Madam President, there are several requests to continue. There's a request to continue number 38 to October 23rd, 2007.
Without opposition, that'll be continued.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That has now gone through committee. I request that go to Personnel Committee.
Okay. So it'll be referred back to committee.
It never went to committee.
It never went to committee. Okay.
We'd like to
With
go
that-
to committee, to
okay.
Personnel Committee, please.
We will send that, and I think then it'll be scheduled to the 23rd
Thank you.
by that time. Thank you.
Next request to continue item 43 to November 9th.
That will be continued unless there's a problem with that. Yes, Mr. Parks.
On item 38, there's some recommendations that deal with the budgetary concerns, so it's not going through budget finance, and there's somewhat inconsistent with the financial status report, so...
Okay, so it'll be going to personnel and budget
Yeah,
finance.
thank you.
Prior to coming back on the 23rd. Great. So those will both be continued, Madam Clerk.
In about 1 minute, we're going to be done.
Makes sense?
Next are items number 1 through 17, and those are items noticed for public hearings. Item number 1 through 9 are street lighting ordinances.
Anyone have called those specials, items 1 through 9? If not, Madam Clerk, if you would open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Those items have been approved. Next.
Next are items number 10 through 17, and those are street lighting hearing items. The recommendation for council action is to continue the hearing and present the ordinances on October 19, 2007.
That will be the order. Next items.
Next are items number 18 through 41, with the exception of number 38, and those are items in which public hearings have been held. Number 18 is the ordinance, and Madam President, there are cards on, for items number 39 through 41, motions are required since there are multiple reports on one file.
Okay, we do, and I'm sorry, the ones before us right now are 18 through 37, and then 39 through 41.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We do have cards on items number 34 and 34, which is an item that's already held a public hearing unless someone requests it.
41 special, please.
41 special, okay. Any other specials? Colleagues, we're 18 through item 40. 18 through 40. You want to call 40 special?
Both reports.
Move both reports?
Yes.
Okay. On item number 40?
And then also on specials on 30 through 32.
Specials on items 30 through 32. Number 40 will go with both reports. Any other specials? If not, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
The items have been approved. Next item? Yes, 39 forthwith. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Next are items number 42 through 53, with the exception of 43, and those are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. Madam President, number 42, no action is required inasmuch as it is a duplicate on number 26 of today's agenda.
Great, okay. I'm sorry? 52, called special by Mr. Alarcon. Any other? For Han, I'm sorry, for Han. Any other specials, colleagues?
Madam President, there are cards on 45.
Yes, 45 and 56, actually, but 45, yes. So we will call 45 special. Any other specials, colleagues? Yes, Mr. Parks?
I made one mistake. On item 40, it should be moved, the budget and finance report, instead of both reports.
Okay, we'll have to reconsider that, but yes, we'll do that. Okay. Any remaining items? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next items? Our special meeting, which does not start till 10:30, so we'll hold on that. If we could reconsider item number 40, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
11 ayes. Mr. Parks is now moving just the Budget and Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes it more consistent with the budget, the policies, financial policies.
Okay. So we'll go with item number 40. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item has been approved. All right, we will go back to presentations. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Smith for our first presentation.
Sorry to get a chance to come and talk to you earlier. We're going to kind of wing this all of a sudden, I think, because I wasn't ready yet. So. Thank you, Madam President. I'm very pleased to present to us a very special person in our community. As we do on Fridays, we like to recognize people as special, that have done special things, and I think, Mr. Weezer, you'll appreciate this one. Louis Chapelier is a teacher at Monroe High School since 2000. He teaches computer-assisted design, engineering, robotics, and other subjects that are together offer real-work professional training for youth in our community. They'll help them become highly skilled workers in such fields as aerospace and high-tech manufacturing. Lewis was awarded by the County of Los Angeles the Teacher of the Year Award for the entire County of Los Angeles on September 21st, and was recognized for his dedication to students at Monroe High School and beyond the classroom. Lewis has a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering from Boston University and a master's degree in mechanics from Columbia University in New York. He also studied at UCLA, for all our Bruins here, Ms. Gruhl and others. Born in Kent, Ohio, he moved to Los Angeles and started teaching in the year 2000. After seeing an online advertisement seeking teachers to teach young people at Juvenile Hall in LA, he thought it would be the worst experience of his life. It actually turned out to be the best experience of his life. At Monroe, he teaches actual career training. He also teaches resume writing and office skills. He takes his students into the real world to give their education more power. He takes them on tours of aerospace companies. He offers school tutoring and takes them to Glendale College to learn about the robotics program at Glendale College. As part of the robotics training, his students build robots that compete in robot contests similar to BattleBots. He also teaches other teachers how to teach in his program. Currently, over 30 Monroe High School students are in the program and are now enrolled online engineering study classes at Cal State Northridge, where they receive college credit. You know, we have incredible teachers in this city, and too often they don't get the respect they deserve Too often they don't get the recognition. But when one of our teachers rises to such a level of expertise that he is recognized by the entire County Board of Education as the exemplary best teacher in the county, we have to bring him here and say thank you on behalf of our community, thank you on behalf of all the students at Monroe High School. We're very proud of Monroe High School. It's good to see you here today too, Principal. And just say thank you, thank you, thank you. And to give you this certificate of appreciation and recognition from Mr. Cardenas and myself, who represent the Monroe area. Congratulations on your achievement and all you do for our students.
Thank you.
Would you tell us a little bit about the program?
Okay. I wish I could have brought one of my big robots here, but I don't have it with me right now. When I moved to Los Angeles almost 8 years ago, I never could have imagined that I would be getting an award in front of City Council. This is really great. I am truly honored to be here. I never thought that I would be a teacher. I was an engineer and had a very lucrative career ahead of me. And what I learned in my previous business career is that a company is only ultimately successful when we treat each other like family, with dignity and honesty. This is what I have brought to the teaching profession. I treat each student as lovable, important, capable, and irreplaceable. The relationship that I have with my students is so completely fulfilling. I teach my classes with high rigor and relevance, and I think my success has come from the fact that I know a classroom will not work if it is bound by four walls. I had a vision that my classroom would be part of the community, and I welcome them with open arms. James Monroe High School has always been at the forefront of career education and is now a model smaller learning communities high school for the whole U.S. Absolutely none of this would have been possible without the vision of my principal, Linda Schwartz. Over the past couple years, I know that she is the only person who could have built a school into the community that it is now. I look up to her for having the courage to put words into action and actually living up to the extremely high expectations that she gave herself. Her life's achievement is now in action and thriving. Greatness cannot happen without great leaders. Linda Schwartz has and will always be my role model. I would also not be Teacher of the Year if it weren't for the director of our School of Engineering and Design, Assistant Principal Karen Turner, who's here with us also. She has been an instrumental part in getting our community involved. When we open our doors, the community came running in. I don't even know where to begin. We have so many wonderful partners in our community. I'm going to go through the list of all the companies that help us out so you guys can support them too. Airpac Enterprises, Cal State Northridge, the Economic Alliance of the San Fernando Valley, thanks to Ken Phillips, the California Economic Development Department, the Education and Career Center North Valley Campus, Global Aerospace Technology Corporation, Hawker Beechcraft Services, the Learning for Life Explorers Program, Los Angeles Valley College, Los Angeles World Airports, Van Nuys Airport, Mission College, Pacoima Skills Center, Pennistar, Aviation, Pierce College, Raytheon Test Flight Operations, Roberts Tool Company, the San Fernando Valley Engineers Council, Shrillo Company, Sensor Systems, Solara Engineering, Synchro Aircraft Interiors, thanks to Barbara Caesar, and the West Valley Occupational Center. And these people don't just write a check. They don't just do one or two things. They come in once a month and they meet with us teachers and they meet with the students and they provide field trips, and it's a true partnership, and it's called the San Fernando Valley Aviation Aerospace Collaborative. And we also know that the San Fernando Valley manufacturing skilled workforce will be doubling and tripling in the next 10 years. We need to keep up. This is so critical to all of Los Angeles because we don't want to lose our world-class status. It all starts with the schools. So I want to just thank everybody here and I would especially like to thank Greg Smith from District 12 and also Tony Cardenas. And also I'd like to thank City Council for supporting education and the people of Los Angeles. You are all doing it right. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Cardenas, who would like to add a few words of congratulations.
I just want to say that I've met you. I know your work. I can see it in the eyes of the students as we commended you the other day on campus. But I think personally it's fitting that a teacher, the best teacher in LA County, should be recognized, especially when they are an engineer. That's my personal bias. And but the one thing I want to say seriously is all the things that you're teaching these kids, like robotics and not just how to use a computer, but how to understand them, etc. I think it's fitting for you to make that example so that people understand that many of these kids that you're teaching come from low-income families, and the amount of your income has nothing to do with your brain capacity. The amount of your income has absolutely nothing to do with what you will be when you grow up and what you decide to be. And so I just want to thank you so much for opening the hearts and minds of those children and their families to understand that universities and colleges are for everybody. These wonderful, challenging things that you're teaching them is for everybody, not just for those people, whoever those people might be in people's minds. You're teaching these kids that if they want to be something, if they want to be an astronaut, if they want to be a rocket science, if they want to be a teacher, if they want to be a cop, whatever they want to be, as long as they want to do that, they're willing to meet that challenge, they can do that. You're teaching them tremendous, wonderful things. So congratulations and thank you very much for being a true professional. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Yes, Mr. Huizar.
One more. I also wanted to congratulate you and thank you as a former school board member. I know how important it is to have great teachers like you, especially when we're teaching our kids the trades and technical skills that they're interested in. We talk a lot about our dropout rate and why kids are leaving our schools. Well, it's because a lot of times we're not approaching them with things that interest them, and it sounds like you're doing that. Congratulations in this debate about how to improve education. Along with parents, our teachers are our most important variables in making sure our students are learning and prospering, and it sounds like you're doing a tremendous job. Congratulations and thank you for the work you do. Thank you.
And if I can close in just saying that not only is this teacher exemplary, but Monroe High School is really leading the charge in connecting our kids to an education that's going to make a job for them. We've had an ongoing relationship with them over there. We're bringing kids into the engineering field, and I had a meeting with some 40 or 50 businesses in the Chatsworth area, which employs 30,000 employees over there, mostly in the aerospace industries. And what they told me is we're not getting enough engineers out of our public school system. And so to hear what you're doing there and gives the kids a reason to want to do it is so great, because it's a field that we're lacking in and that American business needs. And so thank you very much. We're very proud of what's going on at Monroe High School. Very proud of what you've accomplished. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Alarcon for our next presentation.
You don't look like an engineer. Congratulations. Good morning. Members, just when you thought Latino Heritage Month was over, I'm here to make another presentation, but actually the Latino Heritage Month extends through the first part of October. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Michelle Ceros, and her family can come up. Michelle is a very talented word engineer. She is a poet, born and raised in the Oxnard area, but certainly has contributed to the Los Angeles environment as well. I'd like to read some of her tremendous accomplishment. First of all, she's an award-winning writer and storyteller. She's emerged as a fast-rising star in the literary world. Michelle was named by Newsweek as one of the top young women to watch for the new century. Her books have made their way into required curriculum of high school and college English classes, as well as Chicano studies courses across the country. Her work explores and describes the exchange of Latino and Anglo cultures to better provide readers with the realities of being a Latina in the U.S., and she's been a commentator for National Public Radio and was invited to tour with Lollapalooza as one of their road poets. Her first book of poetry and short stories, Chicana Falsa and Other Stories of Death, Identity, and Oxnard, was published in 1998 while a student at Santa Monica College as her first collection of poetry and stories of Latina life in America. She has also published works that include her award-winning and LA Times best-selling book, How to Be a Chicana Role Model, and her latest work, Honey Blonde Chica, which I'm particularly interested in. No, I'm just kidding. A young adult novel set in Southern California. And Michelle has also been featured as a writer for The George Lopez Show. She was selected by the Poetry Society of America to have her poetry placed on MTA buses throughout Los Angeles County and has been a featured contributor to the LA Times children's fiction section. She is not only a great writer but also an active member of various community and literary organizations. She gives generously of her time to inspire and work with students throughout the country. Members, it is such a pleasure to have such a talent here. You know, writers, you don't know their faces, but their words have tremendous impact, particularly in this case for our Latina young people to relate to. But I also hope that Latinos can better understand how they can contribute to the enhancement of Latino opportunities by way of understanding her words as well. So it is a pleasure. She is joined by her father, George, her uncle, Jerry, and her friend, Dean Caradinos, and we are so pleased to be able to present this resolution on behalf of the Mayor and City Council to Michelle Ceros, recognizing her tremendous body of work at such a young age. We expect even greater things to come. Just keep writing and educating and improving the opportunities for cultures to blend together and to make something better from what was less. Thank you, Michelle. A poem or something?
Oh, I see a little.
Please,
yes.
please.
Thank you very much this morning, Council. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very excited to have the acknowledgement as a writer, as a Latina, with my own name. When I was a young girl, I've always wanted to be a writer. I saw that books allowed escape for many people, including my own mother, who had to face a lot of obstacles in her life. And as a young girl, we're talking 6 or 7 years of age, I wanted to be a writer. I was advised by so many people from my old neighborhood that there was no way I could possibly be a published author. Authors were men, authors were white men. And there was no way that at that time, as a young Mexican-American girl, I could ever be published. In fact, I was advised to change my name from Michelle to Michael, my last name Cerros, which means hills, to Hill. So for the longest time, I embraced this identity, Michael Hill. I signed all my poems and all my stories, Michael Hill. And it wasn't until I was a student at Santa Monica City College, I took a course called Mexican-American Literature. I had no idea what to expect. I thought it would be my simplest class. How many books could there possibly be written by Mexican Americans? And when I saw the course outline, I was overwhelmed. I saw all these names of Latinos. Nobody changed their last name to sound more Anglo. None of the women changed their name to sound as they were a man. And it was that turning point in my life that I knew that I had validity that I could write about my stories from Oxnard, and hopefully someday someone would want to listen. So I find myself in a wonderful place that people are not only listening, but they are inspired. So I thank you very much for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Reyes, who would like to say a few words.
So it's Michelle Ceros. I just want... Oh, well, what are you today? Are you Michael or Michelle? Well, I just want to say thank you very much for being the role model that you are, and I think that you have a very unique gift and also a story to tell to these young kids who are in that quandary. Do I speak Spanish? Do I speak English? Do I speak both? Is one bad? Is one good? That's what I went through when I was growing up. But the thing is, very few people actually take the time to go back to those kids of today who are going through that same quandary and explain to them, it's okay, I went through it, I'm doing all right, I came to understand who I am, and look at what I'm doing, I'm living my dream. Because to me, that's what happens with some of these kids. They think, in order to live my dream, I have to be somebody else. I can't be who I am and live my dream. So with that, I just want to hopefully ask you this question. Hopefully you'll give me the answer I'm looking for. Do you talk to young kids? Do you do speaking engagements for kids and things of that nature?
Absolutely, all over the country. And
okay.
I think what I want out of a child is to I think the most gratitude I get out of my work is when a student looks at something I written and almost feels challenged. They read it and says, I could have done that. And I'm like, great, go for it. I don't want to be the only name in a bookstore or library. So it's wonderful that I get through emails and letters students who send me their poems and stories.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for talking to children all over the world, but I specifically want to ask you to figure out a way in which you can talk to the kids in my district. So I'll be talking to you in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Congratulations.
After me, Mr. Cardenas.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, want to rise and thank you, Michelle, for those words, for your inspiration. As an English major at UCLA, it was a very common experience to be one of few Latinos in a classroom where they're learning about English literature and the great writers of Europe. And when we look at how we establish our sense of history, it is very European, especially in our schools. So the body of work you're creating and our ability to understand our history, our present, our future, through folks like you who can inspire young people, just maybe they'll have a different reason for not joining those gangs. Just maybe they'll think twice about what their life means and what they should be yearning for as a future, as opposed to being veteranos at the age of 17, because they don't see themselves living beyond that, because either they'll be in prison, or they'll be dead on the streets, or drug addicted. So thank you for that, because you're creating that hope, that light, that perhaps will bring them to a place that demonstrates the pride that you have in your work and in your heritage. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, and congratulations from all of us. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have 12 members present. If we could reconsider items 1 through 9, and also item number 53, and also 18. 18 is also an ordinance. So, colleagues, we're going to open the roll on items 1 through 9, 18, and 53 on reconsideration. Close the roll. Tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Then we will be calling special item number 53 for a substitute motion by Ms. Hahn. So we'll hold that on the desk, and then we'll take the remaining items. So, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
13 ayes.
Thank you. And colleagues, we're having a slight problem with the technology up here. So if I do not see that you have pressed your button to speak, stand up and wave your arms if you could. But hopefully we will be able to get that repaired. I'd like to now go into public comment. If I could ask the following individuals to come to the podium. I'll list 4 at a time. Chuck Tenon, Rick Nightingale, Hugh James Hardman, and Christine Zerbel.
Good morning, council members. Wendy Gruhl. Eric Garcetti recently introduced the motion, Daily Traffic Calculations on Major Streets, to set precedents of cumulative traffic impacts on major streets with congested traffic conditions. The city spends money to know how much traffic there is on major streets, and what do they do with the money, or what they don't do with the money? They need to utilize the input on major developments and infrastructures on congested streets. Why did they not do it on West Magnolia Boulevard and Valley Village and allow development to go on without a proper street traffic assessment on this hazardous street? We need Wendy Gruhl's traffic study to go through, and you need to pass Eric Garcetti's motion to utilize the overall cumulative traffic impact that will affect the entire neighborhood. We need to set precedents before any approvals are made to preserve the safety of our neighborhoods. On West Magnolia Boulevard, the developers and DOT did a one-day study and concluded that it was safe to build 200 condos on this narrow, unsafe street, yet the conditions are getting worse. And no one really knows how much traffic congestion there is on this street on a daily basis. All the projects are sitting there with vacant land and empty building, and there was no reason to get rid of tenants so soon months ago. There's 500 and 98 other units with vacant land and empty buildings. What's happening is they're tearing up the whole area of West Magnolia Boulevard corridor. There needs to be a housing policy that sets policies on cumulative effect of continuing development in our city neighborhoods. Without proper insight of the cumulative impact on infrastructures, it's a mindless development. And as Sergio Valdez, Department of Transportation engineer, said to me, quote, "If we don't approve track maps, the city will get sued." Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Nightingale?
Yes, good morning. I want to give you all people a A+ regarding all of the things you've done for the people of the city that turns around and the poor and the needy and so forth, and people that are in six figures that you call medium income that I'm not in, obviously. Regarding what do we get for the average person like myself and other millions of people in the city of Los Angeles that keep going on with these bond measures that I can't see how we can keep and afford it. You know, like you want the extra for the trash fees, you want the bond measure for the housing, now you want the bond measure regarding to put on the ballot for gangs. You turn around and you've taken this phone tax for years and years. You already had a lottery regarding the tax process with the boom of the housing now, and where'd all that money go and so forth. And now every time we turn around, it's a new bond measure to turn around and have it go on to that we can't afford to do this and that. Where's it all going to end? I mean, we keep going on and on and on, and for people that are on a fixed income and so forth, you just flat can't afford it. And then you come to the water, and it goes more. Then it ends up that you turn around and you go to DWP and you take their money. And then it turns around and they want to add the taxes on to us because you people want the extra money. And I just don't believe you deserve it. The only people that seem like they're really for the average person is City Council Laura Clark. I mean, every time that she gets in and says something, it seems like it makes sense. But every time you read something else, it don't make sense. And so what's going to happen to the average person to give it to us? I'm sorry, it just ain't cutting it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nightingale. Our next speaker is Hugh James Hardman, who will be followed by Christine Zerbel, followed by Jeff Garcia.
Good morning. If I could have your attention. This is the third time I've appeared before City Council on this issue that's been ongoing for 2 years, as a result of which we've retained an attorney, and letters have gone out to Mr. Cardenas, Mr. Garcetti, State Assemblyman, and Mayor Villaraigosa. As it turns out, the building department has apparently done some backroom deals with some people to let them build it results in an apartment complex on a single-family dwelling with illegal setbacks, illegal buildings. These certificate of occupancies were issued not only before the buildings were inspected, if you're listening, before the buildings were built, before the permits were issued, because apparently there was some kind of contact in the building department. We called the building department, then they came after us, and now they don't know how to fix it. So as a result of which you have this property is being used as a commercial enterprise. They've got bulldozers parked in the front yard, the trucks are parked in the front yards, and the housing is being used for workers. We want to know how it can be corrected without filing a lawsuit. I've spoken with David Laura. He's looking into it, but it's been going on for 2 years. They're unable to enforce the orders to comply. The building inspectors have no access to I don't know if you're listening or not, but the City Council has received some letters from our attorney, so we would just hope that this can be resolved without formally filing a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine Zerbel, Jeff Garcia, Lisa Blankfield.
Hi, I'm Christine Zerbel. I live over on Agnes Avenue in Valley Village, and our apartment building was just sold, and we've been told that it's going to be converted into condominiums, as so many are around in our area. And the manager came to our home last week, and he explained unofficially what might be happening and kind of gave us an unofficial offer. And then he said, you all should be buying houses anyway. And that's when I took some offense, and I realized that I had just been sort of lumped into this faceless mass called tenant. And I resented him presuming that he knows what my husband and I want and what we want to do in our lives and the decisions that we've made. And so basically, this is my first time here. And now that I'm personally affected, of course, now I'm here. And that awareness that I was sort of faceless and voiceless made me aware of all the other tenants that have recently been evicted who are now faceless and voiceless as well. And I'm mostly here just to show you my face and to speak my voice and to ask that we get some help, because we are going to have to recreate our lives. A relocation fee will help facilitate the initial move-in, but it will not sustain it. And so my husband and I will be recreating our lives to do that, and that's not always a bad thing, but we need help. Thank you.
And if you would, Daniel Tarika from my office here, he can give you our card so that we can help you with our office.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Hi, good morning, Council. My name is Jeff Garcia, and I'm a renter in Valley Village who just recently found out that our apartments are going to be converted into condos. And I'm not against development, but I am against development gone wild. And I think we all have to be concerned with the impact that is going to have on our community in that area. There are so many condos going up there. We just have to really look at that. But that's not the main reason I'm here. The main reason I want to talk to you was that in my research, my quick research on everything, I was surprised to find out with all the renters that there are in Los Angeles that there aren't consistent enforced policies between owners and tenants when it comes to Ellising a project. Owners are making deals with tenants. We didn't even know what was going on for 2 weeks. And, they're trying to get people out. I mean, it's shocking to me with all the renting that happens in Los Angeles, a great percentage of renters in Los Angeles, that there isn't a guidelines that they have to follow consistently. Why is there all these loopholes? So I'm an artist, and as an artist, I have unions to protect me. As a renter, all I have to protect me is you. You are my protection. So I'm here to ask for help from you in creating better policies for renters and for closing up the loopholes in the existing policies so that renters aren't forced to have to go to litigation and get lawyers to feel protected. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And if also, my staff's going to give you a card, and I think that many of my colleagues here, and Herb Wesson, who chairs the Housing Committee, Mr. Reyes, those of us at Bill Rosendahl, myself, others, have been very interested in trying to change some of those laws to protect them. So we look forward to your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
One of the 4 special sessions we planned for the year on single-item issues is on housing. And maybe we should instruct, and I don't know if you set the date for that one yet, but maybe we should instruct the staff to make a part of that session just on renters' issues as part of that housing.
All right, we'll definitely work with that with the President's office. Thank you. Good suggestion. Lisa Blankfield, followed by Jim Eisenrich.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Blankfield, and I spoke here on Wednesday on a slumlord and having to find whom I can press charges with for our government with collusion and proof. I'm high-level management in residential property, and I'm here representing the Latino community today and the low-income people. I don't know how to say it again, but I was told to come to this today. Miriam Hernandez found it very important to do a breaking news report on this slumlord and his building. 3 news-breaking reports on Channel 7 on August 31st. Yesterday, we found out that the same man that I worked for has just been in another class action on TV yesterday in Fullerton. And if Fullerton can get the charges through like we want to, why can't we get him here? This has been newsworthy, and we need help because the conditions that the Hispanic community in Mr. Zane's district is awful. I cannot even begin to tell you. And I have the CD that we're not allowed to introduce in today from Miriam Hernandez. This is like career-breaking for me since I went on TV and said that I'm turning him in, but I could no longer watch this happen. And this man had over 200 violations, and then 4 months before that, 80, and got out of all of it. The place is falling down, dump with mold and mildew, roaches, rats, and charges need to be brought against 3 agencies. I watch them. They are in collusion. I'm not making accusations. I have the whole file. The IRS backs me. And we've been run around because I'm not able to turn the inspectors in to their people without them giving me a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm here to ask for help today because this is a fact. And all I need to do is get the charges and the DA's office will bring it through. I went to the police department, but they can't do these kind of charges. So I'm begging for help in this community because there's tons of this going on. And
And you're saying this is in Mr. Zine's district?
Yes. And who do we go to now for the charges? Because this is horrendous, and I need to help them.
Thank you. And I'm going to acknowledge Mr. Reyes for a moment. I think he'd like to respond.
Thank you, Madam President. In the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, we chair and have the Building and Safety Department respond to our committee. So if you have a copy of some of the documents you're referring to, Monica from my office can attend to you, and we can follow up accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Jim Eisenrich, followed by Albert Epstein, and then Don Schultz.
I live at 6815 Calvin. I have for 12 years. Lisa Blankenfield is one of the managers here, and I'm here because I'm getting evicted from the building, and on a retaliation. April 4th, I went downtown LA through the housing on a meeting, and I was in at 12 o'clock and out at 12:15, and violations were not completed yet. And now there's more violations in the building, and I guess he doesn't like me or what. He wants me out of the building. I'm here to represent the Latinos in my building and ask the council to help us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. I know Mr. Reyes, as indicated, will follow up with that. Albert Epstein.
Madam Chairman, members of the council, it's with an apology that I make an appearance today to bring you an item of public safety and public health which apparently has not found the attention of council. I'm referring to the 5200 block of Saloma Avenue in Sherman Oaks. That street has become a public nuisance. In February of 2004, I requested an inspection of the street, and I requested at that time to be notified. The street department did inspect the street, declared it basically defective and in need of complete resurfacing. A year later, I checked with the street department, and it had been placed on the list, but nothing had been done. I then contacted the office of Councilwoman Wendy Gruhl in order to find out whether or not that street would be done within the next year. The following year, I again contacted the street department, and again I was told that it is on the list, but that no funds have been appropriated. Again, in 2007, I contacted the street department, and I also talked to Pat Davenport concerning this matter, and I was told that no money had been appropriated for it, that no date for the repairs had been given, and that basically all of the police and fire would have to be fired in order to pave one single block, the 5200 block of Saloma. I have photographs to show you and to leave with the council concerning this street. The problem is that there's so much standing water on this street that it is a likely source for mosquitoes. It is a likely source for viruses. The street is so deteriorated that there are 25 potholes.
And Mr. Epstein, and I took down your phone number from your card, and I will personally follow up on where we are. And unfortunately, we aren't able to repair as many, but it shouldn't have taken that long. So we'll look into that, and I will get back to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here today. And you said the 5200 block, correct? Okay.
We'll pass the photographs up to you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Schultz, followed by William Heath, followed by Sharon Brewer and Candido Morez.
Good morning, Madam President, council members. Can you hear me? Okay. I have to tell you, the City Council scares the bejeebies out of me. As a taxpayer in the City of Los Angeles, my biggest fear comes when this council meets on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Whether it's a parcel tax, a phone tax, or the latest strain on LA City taxpayers, I go into a financial convulsion at the close of your thrice weekly council meetings. I thank you all for forcing me to pay attention. By the way, that soft whistle you hear in the background is the sound of the San Fernando Valley secession train starting to roll.
Thank you, Don. William Heath? Mr. Heath?
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of Noel Weiss, and I have some brief comments here. I live at 5325 Agnes Avenue, and we are, again, confronted, other people have already spoke, about, if you call it an eviction notice. I mean, people are all unsure about a lot of things. We need to know what's going on in the neighborhood. Ms. Gruhl, I'm talking.
Yes, sir. I was just getting the
Yes.
pictures I was looking at. Please go ahead.
And I know you have gotten a lot of permits or whatever to convert these condos. I don't know what your situation is. But we have been confronted with things that have been put in our face. It's very urgent. I mean, we don't have any, all of a sudden we have a notice on our door that the building's going to be converted to condos, so forth, so forth. Now, this morning on the internet, I noticed City Watch, the Lincoln Place appeal. I guess the city came behind these people and averted, I know this group, AMCO evicted people that they shouldn't have. And I think the city stood up to these people. But we are concerned about all of this construction in the area. Ben Avenue at Magnolia is one example. How traffic congestion, and you name it. And we want to know, actually what's going on. I know there's a business at the corner of Agnes and Chandler. I think they have been converted to move. I think they're going to convert condos there, tear down the parking lot by that alley there, right east of Laurel Canyon and Chandler. So we are all concerned. We need your help. I mean, there are a lot of people that have been disrupted through this.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Tarika from my office can also give you his card. Thank you very much for being here. Sharon Brewer, followed by Candida Morez.
Hi, Sharon Brewer. I'm here today to speak about the 5 neighborhood councils that are having their elections all on November 8th. I have here one of the colored newsletters that I received on Friday, September 28th. It's a really nice newsletter, but inside is the candidates form and the request for vote by mail, which was due October 1st on Monday. Time-sensitive information that people received on Friday, the 28th of September. In Tarzana's, there's no boundary information. On the candidate form, there's no boundary information on the north area rep, the south area rep. When it comes to the vote by mail, again, no date of the election, and that's the same thing with Reseda and Winnetka. It also goes and states that the last candidate information session will be held September 27th. Again, received September 28th. For Reseda, no boundaries. Again, vote by mail had no information on it about the date of the election. Their candidate information was Thursday, September 27th. Warner Center, Woodland Hills Warner Center. Again, the same thing. The vote by mail, no date of the election. Their last two candidate information sessions were September 19th and September 26th. Again, received the September 28th. There were 79,770 of these mailed out by name, if a name had an address. Over 90,000 were printed. I questioned the database that they used because the one that I got had my dad's name on it, and he died in 1956. My next door neighbor didn't get one. My mother, who lives in an apartment in Winnetka, out of 31 units, only 10 got it, and she's lived there for 14 years. Again, something has to be done about timely mailings. Thank you.
Thank you. Candido Merez, followed by Elizabeth Nahar, Crystal Nahar, and Angel Nahar.
Madam President, thank you. I also have Joaquin and Martha with us. If we can all speak at one time, we'd appreciate that. Madam President, council members, thank you very much for coming here to the Valley. I just want to speak out on something that's very dear to my heart. As a parent who knows the pain and devastation of the gang and drug issue, I want to thank you, especially Janice Hahn, thank you very much for bringing forth the gang tax. I know a lot of people are going to argue with me on that, and they're going to say that a lot of money has been wasted. I'm going to show you that it hasn't been wasted. They talk about that there's 40,000 gang members in this city, but I tell you, if we didn't have the programs that we have, and each one of you know about the programs in your area that work, LA Best, Jeopardy program. These are two of the finest ones. We need to expand those programs. But I want to thank you for putting that forth. If the public really wants to do something about the gang problem and the drug problems in this city, they're going to get an opportunity. They can vote for it. Are there problems with some of our programs? Absolutely. We need to evaluate them, but some of them are working. I'd like to introduce you to some of these kids. Martha and Joaquin Conejo are part of the past. They were part of the Jeopardy program back in the 90s. And I want to hear their success stories because they're very important. Joaquin, Martha?
Good morning, my name is Joaquin Cornejo, and I'm just here to testify. These programs really help those kids that need it. I come from a single parent home. Older sister, I'm the second brother, younger brother. These places provide a safe place for kids to play, learn skills, have role models. That really helped me growing up. I'm currently at CSUN. I'm working on a double BA, Psychology, Chicano Studies. I also work for the YMCA since '98. I'm currently a programs director. And these programs really helped me. I also used to work for after-school programs. It was a nonprofit, Well Fit for Kids, that work with Beyond the Bell and LA's Best. Growing up as a child in elementary, I remember staying after school playing with LA's Best, football and other games, and it really helped me. It provided a place for me to play, a safe place, and I have fun memories from that, and now I'm helping others to do the same. I work with children, and I'm an example for them, and it can be done.
Good morning, my name is Marta Cornejo. Joaquin is my brother, and I'm here to represent everybody that comes from a broken family. For those kids that are in the streets, for those kids that have no hope, I'm here to represent that there is hope. Programs work. Your response is here right now. I'm a biologist. I'm a coordinator for Olivia Hospital. I also work with Harvard from Boston with diabetics. I also do work for multiple sclerosis at the micro level. And people approach me thinking that how I accomplished this. My mom is single. My brother was on the streets. How I was to come about. Thank you to Candy. Thank you to programs that are offering the help for us. I was able to have a peace of mind to go to school. I had a place after school where to go, where to be embraced. There are generations that still need your help. All I'm asking is for them to be provided with the same opportunity that we had. Thank you. And please provide those funds.
Madam President, we're going to condense all of our time, so I hope you'll give us. Now that was the past. We have the present. This is the Nahar family, Madam President, and these kids are from your district, Ms. Gruhl. And would you guys step up? This is Crystal, Angel, and Elizabeth, and they belong to the Jeopardy program. They belong to the LA Best program. Ms. Gruhl, they have a couple of cards for you because just a couple of weeks ago, you provided a couple of buses for the kids and the seniors to go. Somebody else said they couldn't do it. You did it. We want to thank you because you are always doing things for the community, and people just don't know about it.
Thank you very much.
One of the kids would like to just say something real quick.
I just wanted to say thank you for the Jeopardy program and for the LA's Best program. They have really helped my family, my brothers and my sisters, and I just wanted to say thank you.
I just want you to show, this girl's going to be a heavyweight champion one day. Show me your jab cross. Yeah, show them what Jeopardy show them. She's beautiful.
I was going to say, do it
Come on, just go ahead,
Candido there.
Go ahead, let's go.
All right.
Council members, again, we can't save all the children, and as someone that knows the devastation, there are programs, and again, this is going to be out there. We have to sell it. Ms. Hahn, again, thank you very much. Ms. Gruhl, Mr. Smith, you and Mr. Zine have worked the Jeopardy program, Mr. Alicon, these programs, and those of you in your area, you guys have done it. Thank you very much. There's a lot of children to be saved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Candida, and to all the students who came with you. Miriam Fogler, followed by Sean Murphy, followed by Dan Weissman and Brendan Huffman.
Good show, Candido. I hope to bring more people up like that. It's very important to help our youth. And they're our future, okay? And I'm talking today to you, okay, that the unions need to have the cost of living index just like DWP, all the unions here in the city, so that we don't have a problem to have good service and to bring up, people to making sure that our lights, everything has been provided, all the potholes, everything done. So we also have a problem is our infrastructure is decayed. So what we need to do is we need to introduce some the windows, the up on the roof, so you can get solar power to the city here. I suggest that would be a good thing to bring to the people. Suggestions like that. Instead of adding a 9%, 6% for DWP, I think this is ludicrous and very bad policy on the part of DWP to do that when the unions are catching up with their cost of living increase here, and we need to add. I just talked to Janice Hahn, and she said it's a very good proposal, and she said that she's going to talk to all of you about putting that CPI in for the unions too as well, because that's needed so that we won't have this budgetary problem. It will be evened out every year so that you can work it into your budget. It's much easier with the cost of index than trying to give them all at once in the big contract. I think it's only fair. And secondly, when they said that they have to try to find ways to save money, well, there are a lot of workers out there that are, but they don't get any commendations, no proclamations, no presentations. But I think it's about time we should give incentives for workers here to save money for the city and pass that savings on to like solar power. That's what we need. We need to shift our city and our whole communities into solar power. Something to be done to save electricity, save water. So there's got to be other ways of doing this than just doing what we've been doing now. The sewer surcharge. We need to redo these things to make it easier for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fogler. Sean Murphy?
Good morning, City Council. Good morning, City Council, Ms. Wu. This is my first time here at City Hall, Van Nuys City Hall. I have noticed some streets in between Laurel Canyon and Ventura. When is it going to be repaired, and when is it going to be done? I'm with the Knights of Columbus of North Hollywood Council. We will be celebrating our 80 years November the 10th. 80 years as a council November the 10th. You're invited to come. It's open to the public. I hope you can make it out there. It's at St. Charles Borromeo's Catholic Church in North Hollywood. And it's going to be a big celebration. Also, I'd like to know, when are we going to get another Valley Plaza? There's businesses is closed. Things are boarded up. What's going to take its place? And that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you very much. And you can, Valley Plaza is a planned, they haven't come with all of the final plans, but there will be a development on that site, and welcome you giving my office a call regarding that. Thank you so much.
Also, I'm glad to name the school. I'm glad there's a school that you named the school after the superintendent. I'm happy for that too. When is it going to open?
It'll open next year. Thank you so much. Dan Weissman, followed by Brendan Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members
Mr. Weissman, maybe before you speak, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Labange is going to leave us in a minute, and his birthday is tomorrow, so I want just everyone to acknowledge his birthday tomorrow.
Well, in that case,
we celebrate your birth.
Happy birthday.
No, Dan, that's okay. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Sorry, Mr.
Happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday to you.
I think we need to all go to singing school here. Thank you. But anyways, happy birthday.
I just want to thank my parents who aren't in heaven and everybody, and it's wonderful to have a birthday. I hope everyone has a great one. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you.
And we know how old you are, too, Tommy.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. We took no time off your clock, so you have 2 minutes.
Well, grant it to Mr. Labange. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to talk mostly in welcome to all of you to the Valley from the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, and also I'm going to welcome you from the West Hills Neighborhood Council, and all 38 of the neighborhood councils of the San Fernando Valley. I think you're seeing today a series of public comments of at least as good quality as you see downtown, and I think, quite frankly, much better. I'm concerned about the ways in which these public comments are received and responded to, but very much encouraged by Ms. Gruhl and several other of the council members' immediate responses to send people with specific concerns to specific members of their staff. I think that's a great advantage, a great increase over what we've done. Then from now on, I'm going to talk about personal comments on recent events, many, many events, and so I'm no longer acting as a neighborhood council representative. As you know, the Department of Water and Power on Tuesday voted to increase its rates. It will be coming to you. It came and it was voted over the strong representation and opposition of the Neighborhood Council, DWP Oversight Committee, of which I was privileged to be part. However, the criticisms were not so much that the Department of Water and Power needs more money or not. Indeed, they do, in my personal opinion. But it's the way in which they've been operating and in the way in which you have the ability to influence some of the criticisms that you will see in the Oversight Committee's recommendations. I hope you'll review those. I see 14 seconds left. There's no way to go through everything on my list. I'll have to come back and see you on Tuesday. But I want to advise you that the Congress of Neighborhood Councils will be the 27th, the Mayor's Budget Day, the Saturday after this. Budget is a very serious concern, and I want to commend Mr. Parks and his committee and this council for beginning to address the hundreds of millions of dollars of challenges that we have in our budget now. I hope my colleagues in back of me, the stakeholders of the City of Los Angeles, will take full part in the budget process that is before all of us at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brendan Huffman.
Good morning, Council. I'm Brendan Huffman. I'm CEO of VICA, Valley Stream Commerce Association. I'm going to start my comments today by commending Councilwoman Janice Hahn. We've commended her before. It's not the first time. I'm commending her because when she came up with an idea for a controversial ballot item, a parcel tax to fund anti-gang programs, she did this the right way. She contacted VICA several months ago, brought us in to express her thoughts on this and invite our concerns, which we did before the language was complete. In the past few days, and one of the questions was, Brendan, who is the most influential opinion leader in the San Fernando Valley? And I say that is the Daily News. So on Sunday, the headline is DWP's LA's best paying jobs, which some people object to, but the salaries are posted and they seem to be a little higher than others. Wednesday's headline is Board OK's DWP rate hike. Thursday's headline is LA versus the people. So now we're getting into more utility taxes, a phone tax, which kind of came up out of nowhere, as well as a rate hike that has not really been vetted. In fact, DWP called VICA on Friday to ask for our support on the rate hike. We have not taken a position on these things yet, but I just want to say that it's very difficult. It's going to be difficult for me to get my guys at VICA and women to support all of these taxes at the same time unless there's been a predictable, consistent process that invites public comment and a demonstration that these funds are actually going to be used for what they're supposed to be for. I want to conclude my comments by saying that we're very concerned about utilities and tax at VICA. Yesterday, we spent an entire day in the state capitol asking lawmakers on both sides to come together on a water bond with prioritizing restoration of the Sacramento Delta to preserve a third of this region's water supply. So thank you for listening, and we hope that we can have more of a dialogue about these initiatives in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. That closes public comment. Colleagues, we do have a substitute motion on item number 53 that has been distributed. I'd like to ask Madam Clerk if you would open the roll on that item, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. I know we have a number of items called special, so Madam Clerk, next item.
First item called special is item number 30, and that was called special by Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks, I think do you want to take 30, 31, and 32 together?
Yes, yes, please, Madam Chair. Let me ask the City Treasurer to come up. We're going to primarily concentrate on item 32, as these are monthly reports. But I think it's important for all of us to be aware of, because of all of the sensitivity about our budget and finances. As you know, Mr. Defoe is our primary investor of the city's funds, and on the one hand, we have some good news. It's the projections of what we'll get out of those investments, but on the other hand, her analysis of what is in the financial market is also a concern that may impact us negatively down the road, and maybe ask you to give us your presentation on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Parks. Madam President, members of the City Council, Joya DeFore, City Treasurer. With me is Hal Nachtrieb, who's the city's Chief Investment Officer. And while we're happy to address questions from any one of the reports, we thought it particularly important to bring to your attention as soon as possible what we view as the impacts of the recent market volatility, the unexpectedly large Fed funds rate reduction, our declining general fund balance as a percentage of the general pool, and the implications of the subprime meltdown on the city's investments. The good news is that for the end of June, the last fiscal year, we ended the year just slightly above our revenue projection. Unfortunately, with the impacts of what has happened in the market, we do not think that the estimates that we gave you in April are sustainable. But we'd like to outline here the reasons why and what we are doing to mitigate the impact of the negative market conditions. And with that, I'll ask my colleague to address some of the specifics.
Sure. Thank you very much, Joya. As we know, the economic and capital markets environment has changed somewhat during the past few months, and in large part, the economic environment has changed due to the demise of the subprime mortgage sector. This has affected both individuals that have been trying to sell homes, as well as individuals that wish to buy homes. Credit is tightened for those individuals. As a consequence, our expectations for consumer spending, and in turn our expectations for economic growth, have slowed somewhat during the past 60 to 90 days, and the Federal Reserve on September the 18th actually cut the federal funds target rate from 5.25 down to 4.75. That directly impacts the character and the pricing of the investments that we make for both the core fund as well as the reserve fund. That's what, in large part, has changed our expectations for earnings for the pools during the course of this fiscal year.
Some measures we're taking to mitigate the impact, and we're completing our analysis now. The state code allows us to extend the duration of the portfolio from 5 to 7 years. That may help us pick up some additional revenue. Councilmember Parks and the Budget and Finance Committee also asked that we look at some financial policies that would be of benefit to the investment in the portfolio. Specifically, toward the end of the last year, we had some very, very large withdrawals that were unscheduled by a couple of our customers. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Joy, let me ask you, since you gave the report in Budget and Finance, do we have any more updated information on our finances in the sense of what we may expect?
Yes, Council Member. Our expectation is now that, our original budget outlook was $36 million, and in April that was revised upward to $38.1 million for the general fund, based on the reduction of the interest rates, the reduced size of the general pool, and the reduced size of the general fund as a percentage of the pool. We're now looking at $34.2 million.
And that's funds for 08, 09.
07, 08.
07, 08. Okay, so that's for next year's budget, you're making that projection?
No, that's for this year's
budget, okay. The issue then, so we're running behind on the cash flow, much as we have identified other issues that we deal with in Budget and Finance. Do you see any bubble in the future that might correct that $3 to $4 million shortfall?
I don't see a bubble. I can see some measures that we can take to mitigate. So I think if any of us could really predict, none of us would be in this room. But that's why I indicated that we're looking at taking on slightly more risk in the portfolio. And I think my colleague mentioned it was about a percentage more risk, but that should generate additional revenues.
Okay. So we should have a better sense in the August report?
It depends on what the market does. The market in the last few weeks has been about the same. We haven't seen anything improve significantly. What you will see, I would anticipate with the August report, is our strategy, our complete strategy for mitigating the effects of the negative market.
Okay. Can you forecast if it's going to get worse than what you see today?
If I really had to guess, I'm thinking we haven't seen the worst of the market. I believe Council Member Smith asked if I thought we were near the end of this downfall, especially in the prime market. And our analysis and in this review with economists, we think not, and we're looking for possibly a recovery in 18 months to 2 years.
Okay. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we asked the Treasurer to come in periodically to give us an update because although we spend a lot of energy on the disbursement of funds and programs, we often do not look as closely as how our revenue is generated. And a slight twist in the market, dropping us from prospects of $38 million down to $34, is a gap, an additional gap in the budget that we'll have to fill in some way because those funds in the 07, 08 have already been allocated, expecting that money in. We certainly appreciate Joy, and one thing I would like you to, what is our rating? We're still maintaining.
We still are the only city in the country with AAA rating from Standard & Poor's and Moody's.
So it's well worth our energy to protect that rating because it helps us in saving money if we have to borrow money. But it is important that we track and monitor what funds are coming in, and it shows how volatile the market is when we can lose $4 million in a matter of a few months. But what we like to do, Joy, is to have, as you do August, and maybe we won't wait 3 months if things are changing dramatically, if you get with Steve and see if we can bring him more quickly to Budget and Finance to advise the council in the sense of those issues in the future.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parks, for bringing this out and for letting the public know as well what we're going through. Good morning.
Good morning.
Help me out a little bit. One of the conversations community is constantly having is that the homes have risen in value, and as people have been selling their homes, the city has gotten a substantial new revenue base that they didn't have, say, 10 years ago. And then the actual transaction fees are also part of our revenue stream. Would you explain in the last 5 years what has come in and what didn't come in that this kind of balanced off, and where are we with the whole housing market, value of homes, and its impact on us as a city?
I guess
It'll come on.
Our analysis of how the housing market has impacted our change in estimates is that the overall housing market across the United States has been impacted, and as a consequence, it's impacted the overall economy, and that's what's in large part caused the fall in market rates. And it's that fall in current market rates as well as expected market rates that has caused us in large part to change our earnings estimates for the course of this fiscal year. So it's not necessarily specific to the Los Angeles area. It's more of how the national housing market.
I understand that. I understand that. That's not my question, because I understand that we're all impacted by that. My question is, we've gotten over the last 5 years a revenue stream of substantial amounts that we did not have. As we all know, the market started, the housing market started becoming more exciting in 97, 98, 99, all the way up until about 6 months ago. You know, homes doubled and tripled or went up 100,000 or whatever, and as people sold them, the revenue base, the percentage of what you pay on property tax and the transaction itself, is a new revenue stream. What kind of a revenue stream has it been, and what did it offset that wasn't coming in? Because the constituents are saying to me all the time, Councilman, you've gotten so much money now over this. What's the problem? So help us understand that.
What I can say is that some of the revenue streams that we receive are from property taxes, and during the course of the past 6 months, our estimate for property tax revenue actually was higher than what actually came in, and it may actually, our estimate upcoming may actually not materialize in terms of the actual revenues coming in from property taxes.
But what I'd like you to do is report back, because I'm not getting the answer I want, unless, Joy, you can give it, which is to tell us what percentage of our city budget revenue stream has come from the rising buying and selling of housing and the actual transition action. How much has that brought us in, and what did it displace that we're not getting now? Because people's perception are, you got a lot more money now than ever before because the price of the houses have gone up in the buying and selling.
And Council Member, I think we do need to report back. That's a detail we don't have here. But if I could just comment as far as a little bit what we're seeing in the local area is increasing foreclosure activity, and particularly Palmdale, Lancaster area. What that may tend to do, while the base inside, may closer to the downtown city, the base may be increasing. It's our fear that business people may say, well, I can sell this property and go buy 2 of those at a lower price and decrease that tax base even further. Another thing that we are somewhat anticipating is with the increased amount of foreclosures, we will see property owners who are paying their mortgages and paying their property taxes want to go to the tax assessor and say, reassess my property. And so we will get back with you with more details on your specific.
What I'd like you to do is bring it before Budget and Finance, because I got my tax bill 2 days ago, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of us have received our tax bill. It's the highest property tax bill I've ever had. Now, I bought my house in '91. It was at the high of the market back then, and so my percentage was higher than folks who were living there for a long time. But the dynamics have changed again, and we need to know exactly what we've taken in over the last 5 years from the increased values of homes and the transactions, where we sit now and what the projection might be over the next couple of years.
Okay. We will work with CAO to, pull that information together.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Thank you, Joya. And with that, Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Parks, did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to, again, reemphasize to Joy that we would need some updates as the market continues to change and not wait on the reports if we need to do that.
Understand.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, open the roll on items 30, 31, and 32. Close the roll. Tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
12 ayes. Those items have been approved. Next item.
Next is item 41, and that was called special by Councilmember Zine.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you. If I can get the folks that are going to be responsible for this change to come forward, please. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to the San Fernando Valley.
It's our pleasure. It's a privilege to be here.
Maggie, can you, I spent 4 hours between the committee meetings on this matter, and the second time I had 2 of my colleagues joining me on this in committee regarding the provider for the police and fire for the work comp system. And we recommended that it go to a new vendor, TriStar. And I know they're here this morning. I'm concerned about the transition and the uncooperative attitude that's now being displayed by the current provider, and how we have safeguards to make sure that our police and fire who are injured are going to be taken care of. And if we can have also the TriStar folks, maybe they want to come forward to explain that, because I know we wanted to extend the current contract out while the transition takes place. It's not going to be extended because the current provider is abandoning that. And I just want to make sure that we have an agreement that's on the record for the police and fire who are injured, that we have a mechanism in place so it doesn't create a problem. And the recommendation was from the committee to approve TriStar. The president of TriStar is here with us. And I know that it was a short notice that the current vendor said, we're stopping, we're not going to continue. It was previously agreed upon, kind of like leaving all these cases. So I just want to make sure that we have protections for those police and fire who may become injured. If you can just comment on that, and then represent from TriStar, the president.
Yes, Councilmember, we are working very closely with both UFLAC and the League. They are actually going to be participating in the transition. We feel confident that we will be ready effective December the 5th, which is the contract ends December the 4th. But we are confident. I can't promise that we won't have some problems, but we are doing everything in our power to make sure that everything works out. TriStar has been very, very cooperative in working with us to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So we are aware that this is it's fragile. I mean, it's a short amount of time to do the kind of transition that we're talking about, but fortunately, the new vendor is ready, willing, and able, and the staff of the Personnel Department has been working feverishly on making certain that we do have an adequate transition plan. And Andrea?
This was the extension for the current vendor was going to go through what month?
March.
It was going through March, and they decided since they didn't renew the contract they're going to end in December, where we thought we had till March to make this transition from the current to TriStar.
That's
so
correct.
it puts TriStar in an awkward position also when they anticipated it would be March. And since the current vendor, I'm not going to mention their name, but the fact is they're walking away saying, here it is, and go fend for yourself, which to me is very disturbing on their ability to deliver that, which they've had for 5 years. But I just want to make sure from the personnel department and from TriStar, if something happens, I don't want to end up like the school board, the school district, I should say, that you hear about the teachers' salaries and how that pay system has gone sideways and the teachers aren't getting paid the proper amounts. It's created quite a controversy. What I want to do is make sure that TriStar has what resources they need, and we can then, with the city resources, whatever we can do to make that transition as smooth as possible. Since the new vendor has been selected, it'll be approved today, but that window of change has been greatly reduced.
The Personnel Department is very, very grateful at the support that has been shown by the council as it relates to our recommendation to change vendors. And, you know, we will do everything that we can possibly do to honor the commitment that you've made to us. And we really are working on this morning, noon, and night. And I think it's really helpful having the union as well as the fire department and police department working with us so that we can make sure that their concerns are primary because they do represent the sworn staff. So we understand that this is very delicate and that we certainly want to make certain that our police and fire are served as it relates to workers' compensation.
Okay, if we can just hear from the man where the fireball is going to land.
Thank you, Councilman Zine. I think our firm in the last 15 years has probably done over 100 transitions of public agency accounts similar to yours, and there's no question this is the first time we've seen a prior vendor walk away from the account and offer bonuses to their staff to not go with the new company. With that being said, I think we have the benefit of being a Los Angeles-based company. We've got 40 senior managers here in the LA Basin. We've already started the recruiting process, and we've started a great relationship with the personnel department. Also, the city council has been very supportive of the program. So I think, as was said earlier, we're working night and day, weekends, whatever it takes. We'll make it as smooth as possible with the transition.
I trust you'll do that. I know you've given me a contact number for you if it's not as smooth as it should be. So I'll be calling if we need to do that. But I just want to make sure that it's known that your window has been cut short to make this transition. You've been very cooperative. Unfortunately, the former, soon-to-be former vendor has not shown a real professional attitude when they basically walk away. And then it's not uncommon for employees to transfer over to the new company and you select which ones you want. They're offering incentives to their employees not to go basically to submarine what you're trying to do to provide this service for our police and firefighters, which doesn't really speak well for them. Also, and I think it's in the record that we're going to also have these quarterly meetings that we will have in the Personnel Committee with my colleagues on Personnel Committee to make sure that we don't have any problems. And if we do, we can resolve them quickly and not let them linger for a long period of time. I know you've been very cooperative in that endeavor also.
Yeah, I think this will be great. I think we've got all of the stakeholders who are involved in the process really want to see some changes and some improvements. So we're excited to get started. Thanks for your support.
Okay, so I'd recommend that we move forward with this. I know it went to Budget and Finance, but I know I spent 4 hours in committee, and I want to commend Maggie and her staff because I know that when you have a one-point separation, there's a lot of controversy and bickering back and forth. But the bottom line is I'm very confident that TriStar is going to do a wonderful job delivering this, and compliments to the Personnel Department who did a thorough evaluation to make this happen. So we'd recommend that this matter be approved and that transition take place as quickly as possible.
Thank you,
Again, for our police and firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Cardenas, followed by Mr. Parks, and then Mr. Huizar.
What's the name of the company that actually came out on top when it came to the evaluation of the RFP process?
TriStar.
TriStar. So we're talking today about ratifying, basically moving forward with a contract with TriStar?
Yes.
And what's the name of the company that is currently serving us in this capacity?
Cambridge.
Cambridge. And Cambridge's contract goes until when?
December the 4th,
December the 4th.
2007.
And has Cambridge indicated when their last day is as far as they're concerned?
Yes, December the 4th,
December the 4th.
2007.
Okay. Now, in committee, you were talking about potentially having Cambridge go on a month-to-month so that we can have a longer transition between Cambridge and TriStar.
Yes.
And so what happened between committee and now?
We received a letter last week?
Yes, 1 week after the Personnel Committee.
Informing us that as of December the 4th, they would no longer be working with the Personnel Department.
Well, it is their prerogative, right, to
Yes.
do that. But custom and practice in the industry, especially on a large contract like this, isn't it custom and practice that there would be some kind of amenability for a professional organization to have some kind of transition where they would go beyond their strict deadline date?
You know, I don't have knowledge of that.
Okay, well then, if you don't, let me ask TriStar. You're in the industry. How many transitions have you handled?
Over 100 with public agencies.
Over 100. Custom and practice in the industry, exiting company?
Absolutely. This is the first time we've run into this.
Okay, you've handled about 100 of them or so.
Yes.
This is the first time you've run into this?
Yes, in the last 15, 20 years.
And you've handled large and small transitions?
Yes.
I presume?
Yes.
Now, on a contract this large, it may create some hiccups or issues. It puts a lot of pressure on you, doesn't it, and the city?
It does. It does, but at the same time, it's something we're working on already to minimize that.
If there is some hiccups or what have you, let's be frank with each other, who really loses? Can service get interrupted or what have you, or messed up a little bit in that transition if we don't have a smoother, longer transition?
We've got to be
I'm not saying it will.
Right.
Okay. So when I talk about service, who are you serving?
We're serving the city of Los Angeles.
No, but
and
who's the
injured
individual
workers.
constituents?
The individual injured workers, the members of the police
Which are
and
what,
fire
and
department.
what are their titles? What are their capacities, basically?
Police and firemen.
So basically, we have, what's the name of that exiting company?
Cambridge.
Cambridge basically is telling the city of Los Angeles, we're out of here on our strict interpretation that we don't have to be here beyond a day, even if you're willing to pay us to be here for another month or 2 or 3 or what have you. We're going to leave, and we're going to leave your firefighters and police officers to just deal with it.
That's correct.
That's basically what they're doing, right?
That's it.
Well, the reason why I wanted to say that on the record here in the full council is because we had a very extensive dialogue, and Cambridge was afforded the opportunity to speak and make their case and give their complaint or objections or what have you about the process, etc. And I was not convinced that their case had merit. And I'm extremely disappointed in them that they're taking their ball and going home and leaving our police officers and our firefighters to be in a situation that doesn't have to be that way. In my opinion, it is not professional. And also, for those of you, because we have term limits, I hope that we remember this day when Cambridge comes back and they want to do business with the city of Los Angeles, because I think they need to answer to the constituents of Los Angeles about why they acted in such an unprofessional manner and put our firefighters and our police officers in a situation. Worse than that, the firefighters and police officers that may have issues or problems because of some hiccups and not having a smooth transition are actually firefighters and police officers that are probably injured on the job or something.
Right.
What a way to slap them in the face. I totally lost respect for Cambridge. We gave them many opportunities to explain themselves and to make their case, and they did a bad job of doing that. The least they could have done is acted professionally when they go about their business and move out of the city of Los Angeles. Thank you for helping me clarify that. Thank you.
Just one point of clarification. These injuries are IOD, injured on duty. The police officers and firefighters that they will be dealing with are police officers and firefighters that are injured on duty in performance of duties to the people of Los Angeles. Our next speaker is Councilmember Parks.
Thank you very much. Let me ask TriStar on this issue, our approval of this today, how does it help you facilitate getting into the real business of the contract?
The sooner the better, because what the approval today allows us to do is to start signing leases, actually hiring people. We've got a number of candidates identified already. As soon as this is approved, then we can start that hiring process.
Have identified a location for your facility?
We have several locations in mind. We're very close to a location in Alhambra, but there's some issues we have to deal with.
Could I just encourage you to look in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay. I'd really like to encourage you to look in Los Angeles and to pay Los Angeles business tax and be a part of the Los Angeles family. And so if there's any way that you can address that, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then let me just say, Maggie, thank you for what you've done. Remarkable job in a very tough situation, just in your management of the whole process of workers' comp in general, the larger picture. But to come forward with a very tough decision to bring a new company on, it's like changing the propellers on an airplane while in flight. And so we'd like to thank you for that. The one thing I'd like to do is move the Budget and Finance report. Also, I'd like to amend it. Mr. Zine brought up a couple of points of concern. In the Budget and Finance, we asked for a status report in February 2008, and then the subsequent annual report, and then also asked the CAO to look at how after February 2008 we may consider dropping the workload from 200 to 175. I'd like to have those items 2 and 3 to also go to Personnel Committee in addition to Budget and Finance.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Wizar.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. At the Budget and Finance Committee, one of the bidders made an allegation that one of the RFQ evaluators actually had previously worked for one of the bidders in this process. Can you respond to that? And you didn't have the answer at that committee, but you would have the answer by council.
Yes, I can respond to that. We verified that all 3 of our evaluators, of all of those 3 folks, none of them had ever worked for any of the 6 bidders. We asked the gentleman who made the allegation where he got that idea, where he got that information. He pointed to a Public Records Act request document that he received from us. It was an email that was basically discussing the qualifications of those 3 people to do the evaluations. There was a statement in there that said that one of the principal work comp analysts who eventually didn't end up evaluating, that she worked on the Cambridge account. And what they were referencing was that she was doing monitoring work for the city as a city employee, monitoring the day-to-day activities of Cambridge's work. So he was just misunderstanding that statement.
Thank you. And looking at this from the larger picture, when we do evaluations of RFQs like this, and we are selecting evaluators, do we have ethical questions before we assign these people, such as, have you worked for any companies associated with this type of business, et cetera? Do we do that?
Yes, we do that. In fact, after the meeting, when it was discussed, I looked back on the correspondence in the department back and forth on how we selected those 3, and the chief of the division at that time had considered whether or not these folks had experience working for anyone who might be a bidder, and she had found that there was no problem there.
Okay.
I just wasn't aware of it at the time.
But we do ask those questions up front.
Yes, we
kind
do.
of a screening process. I don't know what the questions may be. I mean, have you worked for any of these companies in the industry? That's possibly one question. But there's a number of other questions we probably should be asking, and we do have some screening.
We do have some screening, but we will definitely review it to make sure that it's adequate.
Okay. Thank you. When I was at the school board, we had a number of contracts come before the board, and unlike the city, a lot of those contracts came very directly to the board for approval. But we did have a format that we used there that asked some very specific questions on ethical issues that would allow us to feel comfortable that the people evaluating these proposals are doing it on an objective manner. So I would suggest that if you could come up with some format, something that would assure us and assure the public that what is being evaluated is done on an objective basis.
We will do that, and we'll also contact LAUSD to see the form that they use.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wendy Gruhl.
Thank you. I wanted to, and Tony Carnes did a great job actually in that, so that's a hard act to follow on the kinds of questions, but I wanted to make the point as well. We went through Audits and Government Efficiency Committee where this other company, Cambridge, came and tried to discredit Laura Chick's audit when she was asking some questions, tried to suggest that it would have some impact on our ultimate decision here. And we went through a lot of, we heard a good public hearing. and to hear today that we knew recently that they had said they would not continue this contract to allow for a reasonable time period in which to change contractors. But to hear that they have actually suggested that they will get bonuses if they don't go work for TriStar is beyond belief for us in the City Council. And I think, as mentioned, we are talking about services to our police and firefighters who have been concerned and who were concerned about changing from Cambridge because they'd had them for that period of time. And so I know that the personnel department stayed very steadfast because there were some questions that it was a 1-point difference and what did that mean and how do we look at that? And I know one of the issues that was brought up was the fact that normally when you have an existing contractor, there would have been a greater difference in them actually winning. So even though it was 1 point, they kind of had an upper hand, so to speak, in going into that competition. And so I think we're sending a message loud and clear, which we have on other contracts or other issues, that someday they will come back and want to be part of the City of Los Angeles. Someday, another city will ask what our relationship was with that particular company and how they dealt with us. And that day will come sooner than they would probably like. And so we look forward to TriStar working with us and letting us know when there are any problems. But I think all of us feel very strongly that this was a fair process. TriStar competed very effectively. And two, that it just reminds us why we are here and why we look very deeply at audits that come before the City Council and talk about performance measures. And there's a reason for that. And so hopefully Laura Chick is answering, because I think she probably feels very good about the fact that she stood her ground and said I feel that she felt very confident with her audit recommendations coming forward. So I just wanted to say look forward to working with you, and hopefully some of those employees will realize that staying there is not necessarily going to be the best thing, that we look forward to them helping us serve our police and firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That matter is now before us. Open the roll. Whoa. I don't have any other speakers. Mr. Alarcon?
I just want a clarification. Are we voting to include the recommendation to authorize the general manager of personnel to extend the contract to Cambridge?
No.
That's the matter before.
They've already denied that.
Well, I know they've denied that, but that's the matter before us.
That was from the Budget Committee. Maggie, you want to comment on that? Because there was an extension to March.
Right.
Yes.
And I think in the Budget Committee, we knew they were not extending, so I think we amended it. Are you looking at the Personnel Committee report?
I'm looking at the Personnel Committee report.
I think the
Budget and Finance report is the one that's before us.
I'm sorry.
That happened after the Personnel Committee met.
So I guess I would move the Budget and Finance Committee report, which does not include the extension.
Mr. Alarcon, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
The Personnel Committee met, and went to Budget and Finance, and during that process, that's when they decided to not extend to March.
Okay.
So we'll approve, so the matter before us would be the approval of the Budget and Finance report for that particular matter.
Right. That's fine.
Okay.
As well as sending recommendation number 2 and 3 of the Budget Finance report to the Personnel Committee.
Yes. And it also requires that there's the quarterly report to Personnel Committee. That's also part of that?
I don't know if it's part of the record, but we have committed to that. Yes.
And TriStar is committed to that. Okay. Now you're on public record. We're going to hold you accountable for that. All right. Thank you. Okay. I think we've got that set now. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. TriStar.
Thank you, council members. We appreciate it.
Next item, please.
Thank you.
Next is item number 45, and that was called special by a card from the public.
Sharon Brewer. Item number 45. We also have Miriam Vogler following. Miriam, follows you, Sharon.
Okay, Sharon Brewer, item number 45. We have special event fee waivers. We have 17 total today, 10 with amounts, $121,363, 6 reimburse. For October, 3 days, we have 36 total, 27 with amounts, $166,184, 8 to reimburse. For July to September, we have a total of 302 with amounts for $1,423,768 plus. We have 6 with no amounts, 45 to reimburse. This is 20 days of city council. There's approximately 52 that happened after the event. And this is for the first quarter of the new fiscal year. Again, the total is $1,423,768 plus. The other thing I'm finding is that when I go to the council files and the motions have the amounts and the directions, like street closures, but the council files don't have the amounts and they don't have the street closures. And I'm just wondering why I would have to go to 2 different places to get all the information regarding an event, and maybe somebody can look into that. But again, we need to take and start looking at fee waivers and where they can, our neighborhood councils can take and go and help, and whether they're really necessary, and whether if you charge a person $1, you can get rid of the fee waiver. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vogler?
As I was saying, that if we want to be on budget and on time, that when I talked about the CPI for the union workers, this is all tied into all this cost when you're talking about these fees, because these are as you come, and these are not budgeted out very well when you have these. And so how can you justify having a 9% increase and a 6% increase from water and power when you have all these fee waivers going on? You know, this is crazy. If you want to save the city money and have us not to waste our money as you keep collecting it from with bonds that you keep putting on the ballot, people shouldn't vote for these. This is ludicrous. The only things that should be accounted for is like when we're building our libraries and the fire and all that these fee waivers is not being closely watched. They're not being analyzed. That you need to be able to have some transparency here, have some accountability, showing where you're having everything going. It's not very good, like what Sharon just said, and I'm glad she's back. She shouldn't throw in the towel. Nobody should. And I know where Zumadog is, but we need you down here to get them on this fee waivers, because they need to stop this charade and stop this now. And one more thing is, I'm really hoping that people will consider that, this UPI for all the union workers, CPI, to be fair all across the board, and no contracting out, and stay off the health plans for the city workers and the DWP.
Excuse me, Madam President, she doesn't appear to be on time.
Well, okay, I'm just talking about the fact is if you're going to be collecting fees, then you shouldn't be tapping into other people's stuff. That's what you're doing. You're wasting the money by taking money from it. It is very relevant, very much so, because what you're talking about is you're trying to say the city doesn't have the money, and it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vogler. Item number 45, colleagues, is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next is item 52, and that was called special for Councilmember Hahn.
Ms. Hahn, Mr. Alarcon called 52 for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, Council Member Alarcon and I introduced this motion last week because we're experiencing a very serious problem at our county courthouses. In my opinion, I honestly believe that justice is in jeopardy for the thousands of non-English speaking users of our court system because our court interpreters have been on strike since September 5th. There's over 400 interpreters that have been on strike. And they are protesting the fact that they're the only Los Angeles County court system employees without salary steps. And our county court interpreters as you are well aware, are a vital piece of justice in Los Angeles. Without them, we cannot ensure that the thousands of non-English speakers that use our courts are being properly represented. The justice system cannot function if victims, witnesses, defendants, and others cannot understand court proceedings. These workers are highly skilled and proficient in several languages. This is a specialized field that we simply cannot live without. Other workers of the federal courts receive nearly 40% more than these interpreters. In the private sector, interpreters would receive 2 to 3 times more than court interpreters do. These workers have endured years of no raises and no cost of living adjustments. This is Los Angeles County. Even in Los Angeles, we know hundreds of languages are spoken each day. Nowhere in the entire country are the services of interpreters more needed than right here in Los Angeles. The motion before us today urges the Judicial Council to sit down with the California Federation of Interpreters to come to an agreement that fairly compensates these workers for their vital services. I think the largest city in the County of Los Angeles needs to go on record saying that these people need to be treated with decency and respect. This is really about justice at its core level. So I urge and I vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Alarcon, followed by Mr. Huizar and Mr. Cardenas.
Members, sometimes we take too lightly the expertise of a translation service. The fact is that it is very difficult to translate properly. And in a judicial system that is absolutely reliant on information that is communicated in detail and where every specific word could make the difference in the determination of a case, to not have qualified, highly trained interpreters in our court system literally threatens the democracy that we have created for those people who are going through the court process. So it is critical that we get these people back to the courts so that we can ensure that the proper judicial decisions are made with regard to their cases. So I want to thank Ms. Hahn for bringing this to all of our attention. I hope that each and every one of us will write a letter to the powers that be to move this process forward. We need, in order to ensure that the court system is working for those before it, especially in the city of Los Angeles, where just about every case might involve someone who speaks English as a second language. It's absolutely critical that we ensure that the information that is being interpreted in the court is correctly interpreted. And so with that, I urge that not only we support this motion, but that each of us individually send our letters of concern to the Judicial Administration.
Thank you. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I won't belabor what Ms. Hahn and Mr. Alarcon have talked about and mentioned, and to emphasize the importance of asking our judicial system to come to some resolution and support the interpreters with their request, because as we all know, it's so important nowadays to get the right information, but particularly when it comes to our judicial system, when a word, the way that is interpreted, can mean a court or a case going one direction or another. So I want to thank Ms. Hahn and Mr. Alarcon for bringing this forward. I've requested that I be added as a supporter, as a seconder of this motion, so that we continue to show, as a city of Los Angeles, the need and the weight behind the interpreters to come to a solution quickly and allow these individuals to get the justice they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas, followed by Mr. Rosendahl.
I think it's very important for people to understand that for a long time, these interpreters were not employees. They were basically contracted out, and it was, in my opinion, a very abusive atmosphere to these individuals. One of the things I want to remind people is I don't think any American would ever want to know or witness or realize that somebody could be standing in a court of law here in Los Angeles or anywhere in this country, and the person is asked a question, they don't understand the question, they don't even understand what's going on, and then before you know it, because they didn't understand what they answered, they're handcuffed and they're taken away for 6 months or a year or 5 years or what have you. The fact of the matter is, that is an example of a flaw in a system where we have a judicial system that's supposed to be the fairest system in the world, yet at the same time, human beings are right here in Los Angeles not getting the proper representation or even the simple understanding of what they're being charged with, how to answer the question honestly, and to be able to have the system work the way it's supposed to. I've received calls from attorneys who are telling me that they are doing makeshift interpreting in the courts as we speak today. They are getting people from the audience, do you speak such and such language? Yeah, I do. And they're having them interpret. They could be interpreting wrong. They haven't been certified. Nobody can attest to the fact that they're even understanding what they're interpreting. On the other hand, I think it's important for us to point out, in order to become a court interpreter, you have to be very, very, very good. You have to be top-notch. The test to become a court interpreter is extremely extensive and difficult. The passage rate of people who get certified is very, very low. I know this personally because I've met people who've studied for the test, people that I thought their Spanish was perfect, and they're unable to pass the test. My point to you is this: that level of service is available to people in this country, and I think that level of service needs to be given, because that's what we talk about in this country, about being a country that's fair, being a country that treats all human beings equally. And right now in Los Angeles, we do not have an equal system, and that's a shame. It doesn't have to be that way. I agree with Ms. Hahn, and I want to thank you for bringing this issue so that we can actually express to the people of Los Angeles, just be aware of the fact that you are in a city, you are in a county where people are not being dealt with fairly the way us Americans expect people to be dealt with. So I agree with your resolution, Ms. Hahn, and I think the county needs to get this together and get it done right away.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. Indeed, Ms. Hahn, you're on the mark. The judicial system is the least accountable system. We know the executive is, and we know the legislative branches, but we've kind of let the judicial system be the sacred cow that we have very little to do with on many levels. Believe me, Al Gore won the presidency, but the Supreme Court said he didn't. I mean, come on. There are many issues where the criminal justice and the other forms of our judicial system are not effective. But we're so ignorant about it all, and our media gives us almost no knowledge on it all, that we barely understand the system. I've had the pleasure of being a juror 3 times. I've been the foreman of 2 juries. I've dealt with murder cases in that capacity as a citizen. And I think everybody, by the way, should step up to the plate when they get that summons to go on a jury. And they shouldn't say, oh, I want to get out of it. I mean, that is democracy at its best when the 12 of us sit in a room and do it. But what this tells me is similar to what we experienced the other day when we had the deaf. I had a gentleman here standing next to me who is deaf, who is a court interpreter. And for the deaf people, as for those who aren't deaf, we don't have enough interpreters. And the judicial system almost goes unchecked. Nobody questions these judges and questions the process. This is a good beginning to do that. There must be tools so that the democracy works. Everybody's civil liberties, everybody's process must be protected. Hats off, Ms. Hahn, for doing it, and obviously we should all unanimously support this. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next items.
Next is item 54, and that's on the continuation agenda, and that's an ordinance.
Great. Would anyone like to call item 54 special? If not, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next items.
Next is the special meeting. We could call the roll for that.
Please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 12 members present, and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you very much. First item.
First item is item 55, and that is an item where public hearing has been held.
Thank you. And I do believe that a amendment was being distributed. Has that been
Yes, it has.
received? Okay. So if we could open the roll on that item, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next are items number 56 through 58, and those are items which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required, and there is also a card on item 56 and a substitute motion.
Yes, we do have cards on item 56. I know Mr. Smith would want to call that special. So on the other two items, 57 and 58, anyone like to call those special? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That item's been approved. Then we go to item 56. Mr. Smith, would you like to speak before public comment or after public comment?
After
Or both?
public comment.
After, okay. I'd like to call up the following individuals for public comment: Sharon Brewer, Don Schultz, Miriam Fogler, Paul Fabre, and Greg Preston. Ms. Brewer.
Didn't know there was a substitute motion, so I was over trying to look and find out about it. Basically, what on this item, number 56, with the Lake Balboa community designation that was done in 2002, I still see that it's going to make a problem for the West Van Nuys Lake Balboa council file, where they want to take and rename a large portion of Van Nuys Lake Balboa. And in their petition or whatever it is, it said they included this area in there because Lake Balboa was not recognized. What I think should happen is that Lake Balboa, the community, should just go through the process and submit the application, get the signatures required so that there's a paper trail for this naming and not just a letter that was back in 2002. And again, I still think it's going to make a problem for the existing West Van Nuys Lake Balboa name change. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Schultz.
Thank you, Madam President. Here's a very brief history of how the community of Van Nuys has been carved up. You could call it the OJ syndrome. First, Councilman Marvin Browdy and Zev Yaroslavsky joined in tearing away our southerly border, transforming it into the northerly portion of Sherman Oaks. Next, LA City Councilman Mike Feuer joined with residents in the easterly portion of Van Nuys and helped them form Valley Glen. Lastly, we hope Councilman Dennis Sine worked with residents in the western area of Van Nuys and came up with Lake Balboa. The only LA City, the only LA City Council members who had the courage to oppose divisive community name changes within Van Nuys were Laura Chick and Sidney Misikowski. Do you sense a pattern here? It is very clear that if Van Nuys, what is left of her, is to survive as a community, we must replace the City Council of its male components and transform the present council into an all-female City Council. Depends on which side of the ship you're on. Are you a cross-dresser? Bill, are you a cross-dresser too? No. Okay. Finally, there is no short list of opponents to this divisive name change affecting Van Nuys. Mid-Valley Chamber of Commerce opposes the action you're going to look at today. The Van Nuys Neighborhood Council showed it in their minutes that they opposed it. All Valley Washers, President Ron Feinstein, and numerous other businesses and residents in Van Nuys have taken the position against what you're going to probably approve today. Thank you, Bill, for bringing down the meeting.
Thank you. Miriam Fogler.
My mom and dad had lived in Van Nuys since 1960, and that gives you some idea how long I've been here. I mean, all my life. I was born actually in Northridge, but I never understand why the name change. Except, is it going to affect the insurance? Is this going to increase insurance rates? What's the benefit of the name change when we have a Van Nuys right here? This is beautiful here. You fixed this all up. Why can't we have Lake Balboa part of Van Nuys, have it all integrated together? Why is there a split here? Why should there be? Why aren't we taking care of Lake Balboa the way it should be? I mean, Sharon Brewer in the past has spoken so outspoken about it, and today she just said she's against the name change. I don't know why, we need to come together because I was watching this week on 35, and they said they came out with the new mobile thing, and they said they're getting ready for the monsters coming over here, and I hope not. It happens. We need United here. We don't need to be renaming places. This is enough. We need to be working on preparing our infrastructure, our people against these people who are trying to hurt us. We are at war, folks. We have a war going on. We need to be preparing ourselves, not worrying about little things like this. Van Nuys is of very strategic importance in the valley, and we all need to be united. So what's the feasibility behind it? I want to ask you, anybody, can you tell me, Greg Smith, can you tell me why in your district, why there's a Lowe's over there, Corbin and Nordhoff, why the nice grapefruit trees were cut down? We need grapefruit trees for people to eat. Our greenery is going away here in the LA. Thank you.
Yes, Paul Fabre, followed by Greg Preston.
Good morning, council members. I'm here as a resident of the existing Lake Balboa, and the first thing I want to make explicitly clear is that we're not here to talk about a renaming of a community. We are here to affirm an existing community which is in place today. It's been in place since 2002 through action of Councilman Zine. There is paperwork that shows that it was done to the process in place at the time. So again, we're not trying to carve out a new community. We're not trying to divide things further. We're just reaffirming what currently exists. That's very important to remember because the comments I'm hearing here shows that that's not well understood. With that stated, this is our 5th anniversary, by the way, and so I think this is maybe kind of an appropriate time that this is coming before the council. We would like an affirmation of our existence. Because there, as I'm sure many of you are aware, there has been some misinformation that's gone through the LA Times, the Daily News, not the Daily News actually, but KFWB and some other media outlets about 6 months ago or so that suggested that Lake Balboa may not exist. We have researched the facts. They're there. It does exist. This is an affirmation to get rid of all that confusion. This is all this motion is. Now, I also want to emphasize that there is an application, a renaming application that is out there. It's being put forth by individuals outside the community. That is a completely independent action. It's a completely independent set of paperwork and action. So, again, we're just affirming here today what already exists. And we have folks actually who couldn't make it who were involved in the 2002 ribbon cutting for Lake Balboa. There were all kinds of great things and excitement that were happening at the time. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here to give their personal take on that history, which I think would have been very worthwhile to hear and very exciting to hear. So with one other thing I want to state here is I checked out the motion that has been posted here on the wall and compared it to the motion that I saw posted on the LA City website. And so there have been some changes before it came here. Now, one of the things that is in this changed motion is incorrect, and it needs to be amended before this is considered. And it is the wording near the bottom that states that an official action is required here to officially formalize Lake Balboa. Again, that is incorrect and needs to be amended. All we are doing is reaffirming what has already been done, the fact of Lake Balboa, according to the boundaries defined already in 2002. And so I encourage everyone to take the motion, go ahead and amend it so that it doesn't have the erroneous information.
And I just ask you to conclude because we've passed your time.
Absolutely. Okay. To amend it with the correct information, and with that information, we'd like to see an affirmation, a confirmation of the fact that Lake Balboa currently exists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Greg Preston.
Hi, first off, I'd like to thank Councilman Zine for your leadership and direction in the formation of the Lake Balboa community in 2002. I was part of the process back then and vividly recalled the ribbon-cutting ceremony whereby you proudly announced and introduced the community of Lake Balboa. Thank you for that, and thank you once again for your support by endorsing the motion brought before you today. Thank you, Councilman Smith, for bringing this motion forward to highlight, designate, and officially recognize the Lake Balboa community. I think I speak for many when I say that your efforts are truly appreciated. Lastly, I believe this motion should be viewed as a standalone motion with no reference to the pending renaming application. I support an amendment to the motion to remove any and all language mentioning this independent renaming application. I urge the City Council to support this motion brought before you by Councilman Smith and Councilman Zine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Smith, followed by Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam President. I brought this motion at the request of Mr. Favreau in a meeting we had to discuss the issue. And he was right on 99% of what he said here today, that this is not about the name change of new territories. This is merely commemorating what Mr. Zine had done a few years ago and legitimizing it through the new rules. And the reason for that was partially because you may recall about 2 months ago the Board of Realtors asked realtors stop using the name Lake Balboa because the council action was somewhat questionable in their mind. They were concerned. They wanted to make it very legitimate. And so I was willing to bring this motion in. If you read the language, all we are doing is commemorating exactly what Mr. Zine did in 2002 under the new rules and declaring it as such. The language you see in the amendment were brought to me by the city attorney. And so, Paul, and the one last thing you asked us to do, we can't do because those are the issues that the city attorney said needs to be in this draft language. So all we're asking you today to do, ladies and gentlemen, is confirm what Mr. Zine had done in 2002 under the new rules of the council, commemorating exactly the boundaries as they stand today, as they stood in 2002, with no changes. As for the reference in the motion that there is another action going on, and that refers to an action that is in a council committee right now that was brought to us legitimately through a neighbor council process under the rules of the council. Mr. Alarcon's committee is reviewing that. Mr. Zine is aware of it. We will discuss that at a later date. All we're doing today is confirming the actions of 2002 and legitimizing it to satisfaction of the community that lives there now. We're not touching Van Nuys today. That was done 5 years ago. What we're doing today is only ratifying what was done in 2002 under the new rules of the council. It's to satisfy the community that it is a legitimate community, the city of L.A. I ask your support of the amended motion, and I thank the city attorney for drafting those legal definitions for us, so we're very clear on the point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Zine, followed by Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. Let me briefly explain on this matter. I was not a strong supporter of name change, but when I visited during the campaign with hundreds of people, I said, if you can go out and get the signatures and this community wants this, I will support it. And approximately a year after election, we posted the sign on Victory Boulevard near Balboa for that community that we formed, Lake Balboa. This was done by the community, and when I hear that we're not responsive to the community, this was a grassroots effort. Brian Brennan, an attorney at the time, there was a meeting at his residence, and I remember distinctly the people that were there, and that was a major issue for them. I said, if you folks really are concerned about this, don't just change the name of the community, but if you want to upgrade the community, then work together to upgrade this community. So it was done by the community. It was done with the leadership of the community. This wasn't something that I came up with. I was simply, as a newly elected official, responding to the petitions, which were done in accordance with the rules at that time for this particular part, which was the western portion of Van Nuys, which Mr. Solch referred to. And it's true over the years. The southern portion was taken away, the eastern portion was taken away, the western portion was taken away, and we see Van Nuys community shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller because people in the adjoining areas surrounding Van Nuys want to change the name for whatever reason. I believe in local government serving the people, and that's exactly what happened. So what we did 5 years ago was follow the rules. Everything was done appropriately. It went through the process, and somehow there was some confusion recently. And Mr. Smith, I commend you for bringing this forward. But we're not extending anything other than what was done 5 years ago. And if we're reformalizing what was already formalized, where the signs were posted, it was in the newspaper, there were a huge group of people out there. When we unveiled that sign there on Victory Boulevard, I still remember that day. Mothers and children and fathers and everybody was out there. It was a day of celebration for that particular community. And what the census, districts changed. And when the district changed, I didn't want to give that up, but the districts changed, and I was moved from my previous boundaries to new boundaries. That wasn't a request. It was just what happens when the census changes every 10 years. The districts change. So what we're doing is simply reconfirming what's been mentioned, what was done at the will of the people, so we could be responsive to the people that wanted to make that change. That's what this is all about, to restamp what was already done. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Smith, for making this happen for the community.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas, followed by Mr. Alacon.
Well, I just want to thank Councilmember Smith for bringing this black and white. It's pretty clear and motion. But one thing I want to remind everybody who's here, whether you like it or not, this motion does include language that says, and there is a current process underway to expand the existing designation of Lake Balboa. Again, whether you like it or not, that process needs to be respected. It is going through the committee process. And also, but I'm reading it verbatim, another sentence says, adoption of this action will in no manner impede or contravene the current discussions and process underway to expand the Lake Balboa community boundaries. Again, Councilmember Smith, I think what you're doing here is appropriate when it comes to the community approaching you, asking you to please help them clarify something that they understood, or we had a very loose process before. The process now is a bit more involved. Again, not perfect, but I just want to remind you on the record, Greg, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but as I told you earlier, I think you're going to find out once again in this business, no good deed goes unpunished. I think that you're going to find people who wanted you to do this, who are probably not going to be as forthright about being as black and white with you as you are in this motion. So again, I commend you for trying to do the right thing here and moving this motion, but I think that it's going to just create more dialogue or what have you, unfortunately, with people who are being unreasonable, rather than just looking at the fact that you're just trying to clarify something. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alacon.
Members, as a former state senator of Van Nuys area and assembly member for Little Piece, I can think of nothing more enjoyable than conducting hearings on this name change issue. I just as soon walk on coals. But I want to thank Mr. Smith and Mr. Cardenas for the opportunity to conduct these hearings. We did have a series of hearings, and this motion is really relative to actions that were taken many years ago. It does clarify, and I think it is a fair motion given Mr. Zine's work many years ago. He had every right to believe that it was a done deal. I believe that. I believe that it was a done deal, and so this merely clarifies that was the original intent, and I believe that to be accurate. With regard to the future possibility of changing areas of Van Nuys, I have long said that really is a decision that needs to be negotiated between Mr. Smith and Mr. Cardenas, and I intend to send the matter back to council to Mr. Schultz. Let me say that at that time I would encourage the council to have another public hearing so that the community would have the last opportunity to make statements before the council as a whole, rather than going back to committee where, as much as I enjoy the process, I would not have to listen to 282 people talk about this subject. It is, it's really interesting. The good news is that there are some very passionate feelings about what people want to call themselves as a community, and that's something that I said many times in the committee. If only we could expend as much energy in other community endeavors as we do when we try to change names of communities, we would fix all the problems of Los Angeles. So I hope that we can quickly be done with this matter and get the community back on track with fixing those other problems that are so much needed.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next item.
Thank you, Lake Balboa.
Next, there are motions for posting. Madam President, we need to adjourn the special meeting.
We'll adjourn the special meeting.
Next are items are motions for posting and referral.
Those will be posted and referred.
Madam President, there are excuses on the desk.
Please.
Councilmember Perry requests to arrive at 10:45 on October 9th for city business. This meets policy.
She'll be excused.
Councilmember Wesson requests to arrive at 10:40 a.m. on October 16th for city business. A motion is required.
Yes, Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Weiss seconds.
That clears the desk.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements today? Announcements? Yes, Mr. Weisar?
Madam President, I'll take this opportunity, since we've changed the policies of when we can do announcements per Mr. Parks, and we are in the Valley. The policies do
That's where the Valley, we don't have the opportunity.
That rule doesn't apply. It's far away from Mr.
Don't
Parks'
tell
district.
Mr. Parks that, please.
But I do want to announce two events happening in my district this weekend. The first is the 9th Annual Eagle Rock Music Festival. It is a blast to be there and see many people from Northeast Los Angeles and all of Los Angeles enjoy local talent. This year it's held on Saturday from 5 to midnight on Colorado Boulevard in Eagle Rock. I invite you all to come see the great community of Eagle Rock and the great talent that we have there. Secondly, Saturday in Boyle Heights from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Evergreen Park, where I played Little League as a young boy. We have joined with the Mexican Consulate, HealthNet, Ultimed, Record Parks to do a health fair. Please come by and enjoy the many services to get free screenings for diabetes and other things. Again, Evergreen Park this Saturday, October 6th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. if you are in Boyle Heights. Thank you. Sorry about that.
We canceled all our games.
You cancel. I think Mr. Zine has one.
You're going to talk about yours too, I hope.
I am going to talk about mine.
I want to remind our viewers that 8 a.m. Saturday, the J. Nolan Community Services Logan's Run is going to take place at Pierce College in the football stadium. Everyone's invited to that. Also, on Saturday, we're going to go see Wendy Gruhl at her event. And then there is, on Sunday, Beyond the Bell, Lights On, Birmingham High School at 12 noon. The program goes from 10 till 3, and there'll be a ceremony at 12 at Birmingham High. And also at 1 o'clock on Sunday, the West Hills Fall Festival kickoff that'll take place at 23333 Satakoy, basically Satakoy and Woodlake. It's a big community festival. And finally, Sunday evening, 6 o'clock, Light the Night Leukemia and Lymphoma Society at Warner Center Park. There'll be a walk fighting leukemia, lymphoma at Warner Center Park. You're all invited to those events, and I'm sure they're all going to be telecast on Channel 35 Sunday. Leukemia, lymphoma Sunday at Warner Center Park, and then the other event, 6 o'clock for Warner Center for the walk. And we invite everyone to come out to those events here in the 3rd District. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl and then Mr. Alarcon.
Thank you, Madam President. 11 a.m. on Saturday, that's tomorrow, October 6th, opening ceremonies, Fall Festival, Mar Vista Park. I'll be opening it. Come on, folks, from Mar Vista. 12 o'clock, Fiesta de la Salad. Health Festival, and this will be at the corner of Englewood Boulevard and Braddock. 1:30 on Saturday is the annual Fall Festival, West Side Village. I'll be there at all 3. And on Sunday at 11 o'clock at the Penmore Center, the tenants from Lincoln Place will be celebrating their great victory. In part, thank you, LA City Council, for supporting them. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Alarcon.
Yes, members, I just wanted to take this moment to mention that we will have our first special meeting of the Education and Neighborhood Committee to discuss the Neighborhood Council Committee to discuss the Review Commission, the 912 Commission's recommendations for neighborhood councils. That I intend to have 4 special meetings in the evenings throughout Los Angeles, the first meeting being in the San Fernando Valley in Arleta on Tuesday, October 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. At, again, Arleta High School, which is these will be public hearings, the opportunity for the community to make comments. We will try to hold all speakers to 2 minutes each, and we do not intend to approve any of the items. We want to hear from the communities all over the city of Los Angeles 4 times in October, and then we will sit down to conduct the meetings to make decisions that we would send on to council. So I would encourage all members, or to the extent feasible, for you to come participate. I'm asking for non-committee members to participate as well, to listen to the public comments and engage in this very important discussion about how to change our neighborhood council system and improve upon it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Ms. Hahn.
Yeah, I just want to announce that Monday, I know it's a city holiday, but Monday, October 8th, we'll be having the annual sports walk to the waterfront installation down in San Pedro, where it's like the Walk of Fame everywhere else. In San Pedro, we actually have a sports walk where we have enshrined many sports heroes over the years in the sidewalk. This year we'll be enshrining Joseph Anzac, who perished in the Iraq War. We'll be giving him the Pat Tillman Award. We're going to be enshrining Floyd Scrappy Rea, who gets the Trini Award, Joe and Mario Danello, Amanda Augustus, Reggie Smith, George Brett, and Jim O'Bradovich will be enshrined. So if you want to come down to San Pedro Monday morning, 10 a.m., it's a great event to honor some great athletes in our history.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. And I had a little bit of a prelude from Mr. Zine, but tomorrow is our fourth annual Child Health and Safety Fair at Valley Plaza Park from 10 to 2. We encourage people to come. It's a great day with information about your child. They're going to inspect car seats, give away car seats, also helmets, and it's a fabulous event. So we encourage people to come by. And then secondly, yes? Location, Valley Plaza Park on St. Clair, just north of Victory Boulevard. So you'd get off at Victory. And the other, I know Tom would want, we share this part of it, but North Hollywood has their entertainment fair tomorrow, which is also all day at the NoHo Art Scene and on Lancashire. We encourage people to go. And Mr. Reyes has an announcement.
Thank you, Madam President. Tomorrow at 12:30, St. Vincent's Hospital having their medical health fair. Please come. And we have our first anniversary of the Miguel Contreras Learning Complex.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Do we have any adjourning motions today? We do, so if I could ask everyone to please rise. Thank you. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam President. Josefina Acuna passed away September 3rd in the Philippines. Born February 5th, 1922 in a small province in the Philippines. Very smart and active woman, very active in many religious organizations like the Catholic Women's League. Was a charming, loving, and devoted mother and grandmother. Nothing that she would not do for her children. Excellent cook and truly be missed by all who loved her. Survived by Nardo Acuna's son, who works for the City of Los Angeles in the City Clerk's Office, Special Assessment Section, and Nardo is also one of my constituents who resides in Woodland Hills. Josephine is also survived by her daughter-in-law, Sid, grandchildren, Bernadette Colburn, Jonard, and Leonard Colburn. May Josephina P. Acuna rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Seeing no other adjourning motions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. This meeting is now adjourned.